I smiled. I lied. Inside, something unclenched. The words didn't land as sympathy. They landed as a question mark. My wife was healthier than ever. Her laugh filled the kitchen each morning. The physiotherapist came once a week, not every day. His casual certainty tasted like a threat. So I bought cameras. Small things, cheap, ubiquitous. Ones that hid in lampshades, in the shelf by the playroom, one that fit behind a picture frame. I learned angles. I learned the delay on the neighbor's ring so I could catch his feet entering and leaving. I learned patience, like a surgeon learning how to watch the red line for a pulse. I watched the tape the next morning with the kind of calm only practice gives you. My hands were steady. My heart was not. He came in at 9:42. He walked like he owned the place. He carried a black bag. He carried a smile. My daughter opened the door. 6 years old, a ribbon crooked in her hair, the world still soft around her edges. She ran to him like she always ran to anyone who smelled faintly of biscuits and better weather. 5 seconds later, my voice broke the room. It broke the tape. I screamed on the recording before I even understood why I screamed in the dark. He took a small vial from his bag. He bent to show her something, and then, fast, casual, practiced, he slipped the vial's cap into her cup. No words, no argument. He smiled like a man watering a plant. I watched the small girl raise the cup, unaware. He watched me through the lens, not because he thought anyone was watching, because he wanted to make sure it went smooth. The camera caught his eyes, cold, focused. The neighbor I'd waved to across the driveway. The man who told me about doctors and courtesies. The man who'd been sitting in our living room like a friend. Betrayal is a physical sensation. It moves through the body before the mind can file a report. Mine became heat and claws. I rewound the tape, 5 seconds over and over. I stopped at the vial. The label was gone. The vial was small and clear. The way it fit his fingers said he'd done this before. The way his mouth flattened when she sipped said failure wasn't an option for him. I did not run. I planned. I told no one, not my wife, not the neighbor's wife, not the friends who would have cried and rallied and ruined the slow, effective weapon I was assembling. I kept the camera rolling. I bought a second camera, then a third. I found patterns in his stops. I made notes, names, times, phone numbers that blinked on his calls. The small details that arrogant men leave behind because arrogance convinces them they are invisible. I collected proof and wrapped it in law. I visited the clinic he claimed as his. The receptionist's eyes moved differently when I asked about his schedule. His name, used in casual conversation on porches, wasn't on their staff list. I printed the tape. I backed it up in 3 separate drives. I set them with timestamps and watermarks. I texted a friend who handled evidence for a living and asked what a chain of custody should look like. I did what the cowardly call paperwork and what the brave call armor. Silence was my weapon. The world expects men like him to get called out with shouting. The world does not expect the quiet man who files complaints, who ghostwrites subpoenas with the precision of a letter cutter. He expected confrontation. He expected a yell. He got a summons. I sent an anonymous tip to his license board with the tape attached. I emailed his bank suspicious transaction flags with a redacted account number and the dates he'd been at my house. I sent a copy of the footage to the clinic's director, labeled possible fraud/impersonation. I sent another copy to the community chat with the header, "This man is not who he says he is." I made sure every copy had the same headline, "He gave my daughter something." The first call to him came on a Tuesday. No shouting. A calm voice on the line told him to come by for a friendly meeting at the clinic. I played the part of an alarmed neighbor. I let the clinic director ask the questions. I let the evidence speak louder than any accusation I might have made. He laughed at first. That laugh cracked when the director pressed play. The room went the color of old wallpaper. His jaw moved. He turned white under the tan. He spoke, too fast, too many words, but the recording was relentless. It showed his hands, his movements, his eyes on the cup, his pride in the ease. The police were already on their way. I watched him at the center of that small room, the very picture of a man who had believed himself untouchable. He tried to bargain, he tried to charm, he tried the same slow smile he used on porches when a stranger knocked. None of it worked. There is a sound that betrayal makes when it realizes it has been discovered. It is thin and small and like a man trying to hold on to a cliff with wet hands. He fell. The arrest felt public in the strangest private way. Neighbors gathered like weather. Some had known, most did not. The neighbor who had told me about doctors, who had watched my wife's house as if it were his cellar, was led away with cuffs. His wife sat on the curb and rocked. The neighborhood learned the difference between acquaintance and predator in the softest language possible: footage, timestamps, testimony. The law does the rest. They asked me to testify. I did. I told the court what the tape said and what it did not. I did not let my anger carry me into hyperbole. I read facts. I delivered proof. I watched his eyes while I described the way he moved, the vile, the half-smile. He did not look at me like a man humiliated. He looked like a man who'd been calcified by his own arrogance and was now being chipped away. He lost his license that week. He lost his home that month. The clinic whose name he had used published a statement about vetting. The community chat cleared like a storm. My wife never knew the shape of the conspiracy. My daughter never had a poisoned cup. I told them both she'd been visited by a kindly neighbor who brought cookies. It was a lie for protection. The truth is a visible scar. A secret is a shield. Standing in the living room after the police left, I unplugged one of the cameras. It stared back like an eye that had seen too much. I picked it up and put it in a drawer behind the spare batteries. I wanted proof, yes, but I also wanted to sleep. I do not feel triumph so much as the cold satisfaction of a lock turning. The world is neither fair nor kind. It is a place where predators test edges and where families learn to harden. I did not choose rage as a guide. I chose method, I chose silence. I chose to make sure whatever I did could be read in court and not in gossip. My daughter draws me a picture now, stick figures with a big house and a dog. She writes "doctor" under a smiling man and then crosses it out. She doesn't remember why, and I don't correct her. Some things are best kept as faint smudges. The neighbor's porch light is off. The mailbox sits awkward and small. People nod when we pass. Their eyes hold that new caution, the one that comes after a window shattering. My wife asks if I'll be okay. I tell her yes. I will always watch the angles. I will always know where my children's cups come from. I will always remember the look on his face when the footage played. It was the moment his power left him. It was the moment my fear became plan and my plan became proof. Justice arrived without mercy. Mercy would have been a conversation. Mercy would have been forgiveness earned. He offered neither repentance nor remorse. He only offered opportunity. I took it, and I closed the door behind him.